Asher Grodman joins us for the first time ever here on Brent and Friends on ESPN 690. I'm assuming he's out in the Hollywood area right now. He's from New Jersey and somehow is a lifelong Jacksonville Jaguar fan. He is the star of Ghosts. You can see it on CBS 47 here in town and also on Paramount Plus. Asher, you got to give us the backstory, man. How the heck did you become a Jags fan from Jersey?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's very, this is very exciting as someone who's been a Jags fan since 1995. Essentially, my dad is a lifelong Detroit Lions fan.
Oh, my condolences.
And that's usually most people's response, and it was my mother's response too. And essentially, she felt that my brother and I were being raised as Lions fans, and my mother felt that this wasn't fair to his children. So she stepped in and said, "Look, I don't think you should do this to your kids. Spare them the suffering you go through." And I think she was concerned that we weren't going to have any friends. So my dad, I guess, got a little concerned and sat us down and was like, "I think maybe you guys shouldn't be Lions fans. I think you need to pick your own team." And it was 1995, and the Jaguars, as you know, had just come into creation, and they had the coolest uniforms.
They really did.
Logo. For an 8-year-old, it was like, yeah, you're kicking me out of the nest, and the coolest thing in the world just pops up. So, and then of course, the first first 5 years, my dad, I don't think has ever seen the Lions win a playoff game in his lifetime.
Crazy.
And we won 4 in those first 4 years. So it was very fruitful in the beginning.
You were the winner.
And now I was the winner, but we've spent the last few years racing each other for the first pick of the draft, which luckily we've had. So I'm very thankful for that this Thanksgiving, especially hearing, because as a New Jersey, New York person, I love when the New York teams suffer. So hearing the Zach Wilson news.
Yeah, your cup must be overflowing right now.
I am so happy. Oh my God. And I remember that game. And I, of course, as any true Jaguars fans, you're rooting against the Rams anytime you can. And then to see the Jets beat the Rams in that epic, wonderful game that gave us the first pick in that draft, I'm very thankful for that.
Still gives me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we are happy for it. Asher Grodman joins us right now. I mentioned, where are you? Where do you tape? It sounds like you just got off the set this week, or you've been on the set this week. So, where are you now? What are you up to?
Yeah, we live on this set. We shoot in Montreal, actually.
Oh,
initially, It was going to be Los Angeles, and then we were 2 days from starting production on the pilot when the pandemic happened and shut down everything. And we, as the world did, went into this limbo space for about, almost a year of not knowing if the show was ever going to happen, what our future would be. And luckily we made it through, and CBS had a lot of faith in the show and supported us. And now I've been an actor for 20 years. Most of them have been rough, and unemployment, through and through. But, this year, we just hit 10 million viewers a week. This is a surreal experience. I don't even know what's happening anymore. So I'm very grateful.
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Let me jump in, Aaron, real quick. What does that mean in the context? I work in TV, we work in radio, right? We know ratings, we know what they mean. But nowadays, we obviously are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch as well, because we know streaming matters, and we're going to hopefully be in other spots too. So what does that mean, in your world? That sounds like a huge milestone. That's a lot of people. How big of a milestone is that in your world?
From an actor's perspective, you're just hoping to get a job, and you're hoping to do a good job, and you're hoping that people will like it and won't hate you. And that hopefully along the way you'll like yourself. So this is really a whole other space and category. I think I could live 50 lifetimes in this business and never touch this. We have, it's a really brilliant concept that came out of the BBC. And a really great cast and wonderful writers. And we're miraculously, even with the pandemic and all this, the #1 comedy in America. And as a guy who's never done comedy before, that is especially shocking.
Yeah, I was going to say, Asher, for someone who described their past experiences as maybe not as fun as the current, you've been on some like blockbuster TV shows. You got a Law and Order in there, House of Cards, Succession, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, man. So like you're out there doing these big roles. It's just funny to me. The last time we saw, as you know, fans in the mainstream saw Jaguars reference on network TV in a character, it's The Good Place. It's Johnny from The Good Place. So it doesn't seem like you have too much work to supersede that when it comes to TV characters. Brent, do you ever watch The Good Place?
No, but I know what you're talking about. I was familiar with it.
This dude loved himself some Blake Bortles. He would just scream Bortles every time he threw something.
And the great thing was, I forget if it was season 3 or something, when like everything changed. I can't remember if I don't want to ruin the show for anyone.
Right. No
but when everything kind of flipped, and it timed out with the 2017 season.
Yes.
And so there's a line where the character is like, "Did the Jaguars make the Super Bowl?" And they had to admit, like, it's kind of close.
Oh, it's so good.
So you have a producer, like, you're a producer as well. Like, do you get to throw any Jag stuff in? Like, do you have any say in that? And really, my burning question is, Trevor, did it come from Trevor Lawrence, or was it already going to be Trevor anyway?
No, it was already going to be Trevor, but I have in our in like ads for the show, any opportunity that I've had, I've tried to get my Jags in there. There was a bit we were doing for the NFL that was like a trying out to be, the whole premise was like a commercial for the show in the NFL, like trying out to be a mascot thing, and they wrote him as a Jets fan. And I was like, first of all, being from New York, he would never be a Jets fan.
Like,
because everyone in New York, everyone in New York knows that Jets fans are alcoholics and Giants fans are drug addicts. It's different, but it's a different class of drug. The rich drug addicts are Giants fans, and the poor alcoholics are Jets fans.
Everybody knows you can't deliver lines as a Jets fan without puking in your mouth, so can't do it on television.
Yeah, so I pitched this thing. I was like, well, why doesn't it could be I did something with, what did I say? It was like, look, I'm a Giants fan, but when Jerry Jones invites you on the PJ with the cheerleaders, you say yes. So I pitched that, and the NFL felt that was too racy.
Oh, you think?
And then I got my real, first choice, which they aired, which was amazing, which was, I hear there's a quarterback named Trevor. T-Money is pulling for T on the money.
Nice. Very
that
good.
Was a commercial that ran. So that was, in terms of the show, I don't have much sway because Trevor would have died in 2001 and would have been very much entrenched in the New York world. But outside of the show, I'll do my best.
You're doing a good job, by the way.
More interesting to me than whether you had a say in your character's name is a little tidbit I found on the internet, and I don't know if it's true or not, so I got to ask you to verify. Did you actually teach acting to inmates at Rikers Island?
I did actually. Yeah.
What? How does that work?
Yeah.
And are you okay?
Easily, I am okay.
All right, good.
That is easily the hardest thing I've ever done, and often the most rewarding. As an actor, you're like, you're chasing this dream that's up a very steep hill, and you never know if you're going to get any traction ever, and you got to pay the bills. And so I was working as a substitute teacher when I was living in LA and South Central area, and I was like, teaching is a cool kind of side thing for me, and it's a social thing, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. And then when I moved back to New York, I was getting more and more into teaching acting, and an opportunity showed up when a former colleague of mine took over the department at Hunter College, which is where I teach now. This Rikers opportunity came up, and they're looking for someone to go in and kind of teach storytelling and text analysis to some of the younger inmates. And I was like, that sounds terrifying and amazing and so cool.
I got to imagine it's like a receptive classroom, right? Like they've got to be hungry to have some kind of entertainment or interesting things happen.
Well, it's not. The hard thing about it is there's so many. It's a very complex situation. But what was great is that you're in a position where you're trying to impart something, but also trying to inspire someone or get someone to trust you that what you're teaching is worth anything. And that made me as a teacher, that made me grow a lot as a teacher to say, okay, so what can someone get out of this stuff? You know, what possibilities can imagination play in terms of how you spend your days? So that was again a really hard thing, a very humbling experience, but one that I got a lot out of. And from my time there, I kind of built my whole strategy and quote unquote curriculum for how I teach and how I teach at the college and how I've taught in other places. So I got a lot out of it. I'm hoping that, you know, I was able to do a little bit of good. You never really know, but I was part of some really cool moments. I'll say that.
That's a really good deal. That's pretty neat stuff. Asher Grodman with
Thanks,
us. Trevor, he plays the role of Trevor on Ghosts on CBS 47 here in town, also on Paramount Plus, and they've got some brand new episodes coming out, of course, in the month of December. I know I told your folks I wouldn't keep you too long, but are you ready for this first Duval? And have you been to the bank before? I mean,
I have been. So I had I'm so excited for the Duval thing, and I was lucky enough. They brought me down for when Tony Baselli got his ring. So I watched him do it. That was very, I know what the script is now.
All right.
Because if you're watching at home, you don't get to see it. And I haven't
true.
been, the last time I was down in Jacksonville was a fantastic game against the Seahawks in 2017.
oh, that was awesome.
Which was, oh my God, that game was incredible. And then after that, I went to the Pittsburgh playoff game that year, which was even better. And then I was at the New England game that we won because Miles Jack wasn't down.
You're a good lecturer.
Yes, sir. That was a great run for you.
I know all of it. So this is I was at the game with Tony, which unfortunately we lost to the Texans. But yeah, it's like this is the thing about like anytime the Jaguars come up, like I go back to feeling like an 8-year-old again. You know, and that's what's so good about it, which is, you know, all of our hearts are so deeply invested in this thing. So hopefully it's gonna, I think it's trending in the right direction. I got a lot of faith in what we've seen this season.
I was going to ask you that, by the way, Dave, as we let you go. Do you like that? You like where they're going? I mean, I know they're 3-7, but Trevor and ETN and Doug, and I mean, you're a diehard guy. I mean, you like the way this thing is looking.
I'm a diehard guy. This is the most positive I've felt. I mean, this is the first time that we've really, I mean, Mark Brunell had some great years and David Garrard had some great years, but this is the first time that we're actually seeing the shape of a franchise quarterback kind of blossom in front of us. I think ETN, his ability to run up the middle, like he's grown exponentially in that over the span of like 5 games. It's incredible. And the thing with Trevor Lawrence that I think is so good, and I get that people were down and people were frustrated for a long time, but like at the beginning of the season, they'd start a game and they'd start slow, and you'd be like, oh, it's kind of like he's warming up into these games, like he's kind of shaking it off or something and kind of slowly getting into it. Then a few games later, he's like, oh, now they're starting fast. Okay, now they're starting fast, and then they die off. And now you're starting to get where you were complaining that they were dying off at the end, and now they're coming on. So it's like everything that was the weak points a few weeks later ends up being a strength. And if that's your trajectory, you're in a great neighborhood because the weaknesses are not hanging around.
That's a very good point, by the way. That's astute analysis right there. Hey, man, you ever want to talk Jags?
Thank you.
You come on. We're here 3 to 6 every day. So you come on. We'll talk some Jags all the time and get your fix.
Brent, you be very careful with that invitation because I will take you up on it.
Hey, good luck with the show. Congrats on all the success. I know it's a tough deal being an actor, but this is really awesome for you, and we like that there's a Jags fan making it big. So we'll see you on Sunday here in Jacksonville.
Thank you so much. I can't wait.
All right, happy Thanksgiving.